and welcome to another free.volous webisode. I'm using a teleprompter. I did a skincare misstep and my forehead is making me painfully pay for it, so I thought it was time to sit down and tell you what are some of my beloved skincare lessons that I've learned over the years, some of which I can't seem to respect. This is my personal collection of experiences, and I'm not a dermatologist, a chemist, or a facialist. I read and watch several of those experts online, and even they don't agree on everything. So I try to find a middle ground from all the information. Not one that I want to be the truth because I want it, but one that makes some sense according to what I've been through. This is a long one, and it will be transcribed to my blogs. 1. First and foremost, it all comes down to genetics. Yay! It's just skin lottery. Some people go through their whole life with a fantastic skin without doing anything to it. Or worse, committing all the skincare sins, endorsing that apricot scrub and baby butt wipes and coffee ground scrubs and lemon juice masks and overpriced moisturizers with nothing but perfume in there. The only thing that will come back to bite those people in the arse is probably sun damage. This basically means life is unfair and there are no absolute answers, just some guidelines, which for me should be led by science-based information, of course. The only absolute truth may be what works for some doesn't work for others. There you go. Number 2, formulas can make or break a product. It's not all on that one ingredient. It's the combination of the product. It's a bit like having flour, eggs, milk, butter and sugar. You can make pancakes, but you can make cookies and you can make cake, or you can just make a mess. So some products have similar ingredients but can have been poorly formulated or geniusly combined. You won't know the whole recipe. Reading labels will only get you so far. It will get you closer than not knowing anything about ingredients, of course, but formula is queen. If you whip the egg whites, you will get fluffier pancakes. 3. You can be sensitive to anything in a product, not necessarily just the star or active ingredient. There are so many moving parts that can make or break a product for you. An ingredient, active or not, the concentration of that ingredient, the formulation, the amount you put, how sensitized is your skin from other products you may be using. I, for instance, spent a good while thinking my skin didn't like niacinamide because of a serum I had used and broke me out. Later, I tried a cream with a lesser concentration of niacinamide and I was fine. It must be the percentage, right? It could be some concentrations are just too much for certain skins. But in my case, no. I tried another niacinamide serum with a similar concentration to the first one, and I was fine and loving it. It had to do with the formula, the other ingredients in the mix. It is a greatly loved product, that first one, but it just wasn't for me. Another example, a good friend of mine breaks out from shea butter. Shea butter, it's an excellent occlusive, thoroughly researched and tested and altogether considered to be a great ingredient with no negative consequences for the skin. But my friend breaks out from it. Does this make her a liar? No. Does this make shea butter the devil? For my friend, yes. For most people, no. Number 4, having a fallback, simple routine is key. Cleanse, hydrate, moisturize, and in the morning, SPF. These are the basic steps for anyone. This is where you build from. If anything goes south with a new product on your lineup, your fallback routine will be there for you. So make sure these are tried and true and storm-proof products for you. Then you can add the acids and treatment steps, which can be tailored to your needs and concerns, and are also the steps where most people go overboard. More on that later. The more comprehensive routine can go up and beyond the Japanese and South Korean 10-step routines, and it has multiple combinations and iterations, but it's something like this. Cleanse or double cleanse in the PM, exfoliate with an acid mostly, essence, hydration, treatment with serums with actives, an occlusive, which is a moisturizer or an oil, and an SPF in the morning. Number 5, sometimes a flannel is ideal, sometimes your fingers are just right. I love to remove my cleanser with a very soft and fluffy and warm washcloth, and it's my go-to method. But if my skin is more sensitive like it is today, I know the washcloth can be a bit too much. So I can remove the first cleanse with a washcloth and do the second cleanse just by emulsifying and rinsing off with water. Or I sometimes rinse off in both cleansers. Having nice cleansers does help because you won't need one for each purpose. A good balm or oil that emulsifies has got most of the bases covered, and a non-drying foaming cleanser for oilier days. 6. Texture is a clue, but not a rule. Function can trump consistency. Overall, you should go from thinnest to the thickest consistency, and most products are formulated to indicate what part of the routine they should be inserted in. But it also depends on the product. For instance, some acids can come in a cream form and are made to be used as the last step of the routine instead of being used before anything else. There you go. 7. Be pragmatic. You only have one face. There are many products that could address your skin concerns, many different approaches, and many perfect skin influencers endorsing products. It's tempting to fill your cart, especially with brands like The Ordinary and the Inky List with 1 or 2 ingredients. We either have more than one skin concern and end up buying all the products that supposedly target each one of those problems, or we want to target one concern, but there are multiple ingredients that serve that purpose, so we have to catch them all. Take a step back. You only have one face. Try one product at a time. This will allow you to give it time to work and see if it works for you and not waste product. So before you add to cart, make sure you know where each product you're planning on buying will fit in your routine, the new experiments and the replacements. Number 8, let's talk about layering and mixing treatment products. Of course, you can layer more than one product. Most products work just fine regardless of brands. Just watch out for the consistency for a more effective layering. Thinnest to thickest, water-based first, oil-based second. Getting one product that does multiple things is a safer option because it has been formulated to go all together. But there are some actives that work perfectly fine on their own, so do some research. You can look up if a specific combination has your desired effect, since some ingredients boost each other, which may be what you want or too much, and they can also act as a buffer and dilute the effect, which again can be what you want or a wah-wah, but this also depends on formulation. So I personally wouldn't layer more than 2 treatment actives, especially in the morning, and especially if they're from brands like The Ordinary and the Inky List, because they can pill. Also, some actives can create light sensitivity. Other combinations can be too sensitizing for the skin to deal with, so I don't feel comfortable piling on harsh combinations. Now, mixing is perfectly fine if you are aware that you will be using less of each product and that's your goal. I personally like to mix oil in my moisturizer to make it richer and a hydrating toner with a moisturizer to make it thinner and more lightweight. Is it useful or wasteful? You decide. Number 9, introduce one new product at a time. This is especially hard for skincare hoarders like myself, I confess. If you introduce more than one product at once though, and then something goes wrong, you won't be able to pinpoint which one is the culprit or if it's a combination of both. And spoiler alert, you won't be able to pinpoint which product is doing wonders for your skin either. Number 10, start slow. We know ingredient concentration can play a huge part. Not all acids and retinoids are made equal. Not all brands are clear about the concentration of actives on their formulas. And as I said, different people react differently. But they usually give you a guideline on how often you should use the product. This doesn't mean you should go all out right from the get-go, especially with strong actives like retinoids, exfoliating acids, and vitamin C and its derivatives. Introduce the product slowly, even if it's meant for daily use. Start once a week and see how it goes. If it's fine after a couple of weeks, make it twice a week, and so on. Slowly increase the frequency over the next weeks, always giving your skin time to signal if it's too much. Some people can't handle daily application of one specific acid, but that doesn't mean they can't take advantage of continued use through a more scarce application. Or maybe choose the same active but in a lower concentration. Slow and steady can win the race and get you the same results. More doesn't always mean better. More sometimes means now you will have an itchy, burning forehead for a few days and not use actives for a good while because you thought your skin could handle it. Hubris is not the answer. I'm not saying this is what happened to me, but I'm not saying it wasn't. Number 11, manage your expectations. It takes a while for a treatment to start showing some results. Up to 3 to 6 months for things like hyperpigmentation, anti-aging, and acne. Cleansers and hydrators and moisturizers usually show some immediate results, of course, because they have a more simple, superficial function, but visible, long-lasting effects take more time. Don't give up on a product just because it's been a week and it didn't do anything for you. And also, assess if you will need help from a professional, a dermatologist, or whatever. Some things need more than we can do at home. Number 12, if it burns, remove it immediately. If it dries you up, calm your skin down. With an acid, a temporary tingle is okay, but a burn is not. And with any other product, even the tingle can be concerning. If it is burning and you're not doing a chemical peel in a doctor's office or anything, it's not working and you don't have to push through it. Wash it right off and find a new home for your product. Yes, you can give it a second chance within a few weeks when your skin barrier is repaired and restored, but keep that in mind. It may not be for you. My mom tried to push through 3 days with an acid that was burning her. Why? Also, let the brand know of your reaction so that they have data to inform their chemists. It may be just you, but it may be a pattern and something slipped. If it left a weird reaction on your skin, like a rash like I do, wash with warm water, lukewarm water to cold water. Use just your fingers to avoid further abrasion. Use a repairing, fragrance-free kind of balm and take an antihistamine, and obviously keep it protected from the sun. The same with those harsh side effects like dry, flaky skin when you're using vitamin A products, which are retinoids. These are not the only sign that the product is working. They can happen as part of the retinization process, but they don't happen to everyone, and you can try and avoid those harsher consequences without losing efficacy of the product. Your skin is being very sensitized. You can either buffer the product or get something a bit milder. As usual, my advice is to work your way up instead of jumping on the tretinoin bandwagon just because everyone is doing it. Number 13, adapt the use to your goals. Stronger effects are usually achieved by applying the active directly on cleansed dry skin or after the acid. Milder and less harsh effects can be achieved by applying a buffering layer before active. Personally, I like to use hydrators and mild actives like niacinamide or a low concentration vitamin C after cleansing, but then I like to buffer my tretinoin with a moisturizer. So there you go. Number 14, generically speaking, there is no problem with layering ingredients, but if the brand says not to mix some of their products, don't. And make sure your skin is perfectly at ease with one before adding another one. For instance, if you're using retinoids, be sure you have reached the desired frequency and your skin is stable with it for a few weeks before you add an acid, a heavy vitamin C or whatever, and make sure you really need it also. There is some information regarding some ingredients needing different pH levels to work, or needing either water or oil-based formulas to work best, so some would technically not work well together. But on the other hand, brands keep developing combinations of ingredients that in theory shouldn't work together and have been stabilized. So because we are not chemists and there's no easy way to access this kind of information, the easiest way to make two seemingly incompatible products to work in the same routine is to give time between steps so that the product has had time to be absorbed and not be directly layered on top of another one that could render the first one less efficacious. Number 15, there are alternatives to layering because not everyone will want to or can layer several actives in the same routine. So you can always alternate actives morning and night and have alternate nights with different actives like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, niacinamide, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, retinoids, Sunday, just hydration. There you go. But introduce one at a time, don't forget. 16, adapt to your skin's needs. Sometimes there are changes due to the weather, stress levels, hormones, something you ate, the list goes on, and your skin needs consistency, but you also need to understand what it's needing right now. The most basic is the change in seasons. You'll probably want to adapt for a more lightweight routine on a hotter or sweaty and oilier climate, and a richer one for the cold and dry times. This can also translate for more antioxidant protection when it's sunny, and more retinoids in the winter when it's dark and bleak and you won't have as much sun exposure, so not as much sun sensitivity problems. But also, don't be afraid to adapt to other changes in your life. Your concerns when you are 20 are different from the ones when you're 40, or they can have their powers combined and drag your self-esteem through the mud. But yeah. Number 17, I don't like fragrance in my actives. Whether we like it or not, fragrance, natural or synthetic, brings no contribution to our skincare's efficiency. It's there to give you a sensorial experience that people associate with luxury. They smell good. And it's proven that in different degrees, it may cause immediate or long-term sensitization of the skin. A bit like with sun damage. You may not notice any immediate negative effects, but they're happening and slowly degrading your skin's defenses, and you can become reactive. Actives like acids, vitamin C, retinoids, and even azelaic acid and niacinamide and peptides and whatever are meant to penetrate deeply into the skin and cause a reaction, which can sensitize the skin, even if at a microscopic level. So I personally don't like the idea of a proven skin sensitizer that has no use in the formula except to smell good, being pushed further down into my skin alongside with those actives, potentially aggravating my skin. I do get my revenge, adding some great smelling cleansers when my skin is fine, which are not meant to sit on the skin, so it's okay. And maybe moisturizers or SPF, which go on top of the other layers and are not meant to penetrate the skin as deeply. I may open some exceptions throughout the times, but I've come to realize that my skin is far calmer when I don't use fragrance skincare. Some people say it's joyless. I say having healthier skin gives me more joy. And I still slather myself in Lush stuff from the chest down. Number 18, don't discard an ingredient because it's cheap. That's rude. Some very basic ingredients are the foundation of many formulas. Glycerin and water are basic but essential. Even mineral oil is not as sophisticated as other ingredients, but it's a perfectly decent occlusive if you're not acne prone, so there you go. Do discard, however, the overpriced product that has nothing but those basic ingredients, some weird ingredients with no research to back their efficacy, and the fancy logo. Pretty packaging does not a skincare make. Number 19, SPF is non-negotiable for me. There's no exceptions, there's no especially if. SPF 50 plus with broad spectrum protection at all times. With moderate to intense sun exposure, I do reapply every 2 hours at least. If I'm staying at home inside, and I have big windows, I consider it intense sun exposure. I do use factor 30 if I'm just staying indoors and it's dark and overcast outside, but that's it. SPF all around, the recommended amount. Reapplication is key, at least before going out again. Not all sun damage is immediate. Some of it can be deadly, and your skin's ability to produce collagen and elastin will be debilitated. And hyperpigmentation is so hard to remove, I prefer not to have it in the first place. And it doesn't show when you're young, but it will catch on to you eventually, Miss Prune. If you want a tan, get a self-tanner, get hang of a bronzer, and do double cleanse at the end of the day because SPF is formulated to stick to your skin, so it will be harder to come off with just one cleanse. If you are relying on your foundation for sun protection, most foundations have SPF 25 or under, which is insufficient. The recommended amount is of 1.4 grams of product, which means that your 30 ml foundation should last you way under a month with just one application per day. Maths! So Nikki Tutorials is a Glossier girl compared to the level of coverage you will have to be sporting for it to actually protect your skin. And you still need to reapply. If only there were products formulated to go under your makeup that did the sun protection without all the faff and expense that you could then top up with spray formula and powders. Number 20, face masks are not a thing for me anymore. I've come to stop using face masks altogether, and I used to swear by some. I just don't have the time for them right now, and if my skincare routine is good, I don't feel the need for them. I can sometimes do a dedicated routine for a specific goal, like do a more abrasive exfoliation followed by lots of hydration and then coated with a nice oil, but I just don't reach for masks to do this. Number 21, knowledge is a flowing thing, and I rely on other people's information to make the best informed decisions I can. So I will make mistakes and change opinions, and that's okay. Just keep in mind, some studies are a bit out of date, and others are too new and lacking in more comprehensive data. It's an always evolving field, and it's so profitable that some brands can get ahead of themselves to stay relevant, which may lead to some missteps. And independent studies, sadly, are not the most common thing, but on the other hand, brands don't always invest in thorough research for themselves. So, for instance, vitamin C, it's thoroughly researched, but some of its newest and hip derivatives are not. So are they actually better, more stable, but as effective? We can't say for sure yet. But we can try them out and see how we get along. Just don't go for the blanket statements. Research and development are so important, and I love that a brand invests in these areas instead of packaging and brand trips for influencers, but that's not always the case. And also, having a doctor on the label doesn't mean it's automatically a flawless and well-researched brand. Some aren't even real doctors. At least not doctors of skin or chemistry. But anyway, things evolve. New information is always coming out, and we shouldn't be afraid of changing our stance a bit. Being open to learn new things is important, and also be aware that we may be fed wrong information, not intentionally, but eventually it will happen. Brands are not out to get you, but they do want your money, and they often exaggerate their claims. There are some people I like to hear talking about skincare from a scientific perspective. There are Caroline Hirons and her guests, of course, Cyrille Laurent, Dr. Dray, Muffin Beauty Science, and Kenna. They all have different approaches to what is an absolute no-no and a must-must in their books, just so you know. Now, here comes number 22, the green, clean, and whatever trend rant. Anecdotal experiences and distorted research results have created or evolved into trends that were then irresponsibly appropriated by brands that choose to ride the wave of fear to sell their products. For instance, someone decided all parabens are bad based on a study about one paraben, like mushrooms. Then they launched a campaign that was picked up by people, and now brands are using far less tested preservatives on your products that are far more prone to cause irritation. Some brands talk about chemicals as if they were squeezing grass directly onto a jar. They're not. Everything is a chemical. Water is a chemical, and everything is hopefully processed in labs to become skin appropriate and bioavailable and all that. Unless they're being made in someone's kitchen, which please don't. Very often, the natural option is far more aggressive for the skin than the synthetic one, which has been refined and tweaked. So there you go. And also, having the selling point of stating the obvious as a deliberate new thing is punch in the face stupid. Oh, a moisturizer that is sulfate-free? Wow. Why would a detergent, a foaming agent, be put in a moisturizer in the first place? And not acknowledging some people may not get along with your products and putting the blame on them, or not listening to customer feedback, drives me nuts. So, if a brand claims non-toxic nonsense and harmful suspicious shenanigans, it hugely deflates my attention. If you break out from silicones, which is unusual but can happen, and look for a silicone-free formula, it's fine. It's not okay to say silicones should be banned from existence. Green and clean should mean ethically sourced, cruelty-free, backed with all the meaningful scientific papers with recyclable packaging and reusable solutions, more investment in research and development, and less in fear-mongering marketing. Listen to your consumers, but don't profit on their stupid ability. Yes, stupid ability. Ability to make stupider. It's a word, because I just made it. So this is it. At least this was all I could think of and remembered to write down, and I hope it has been helpful. You can always go back to my blogs and read it all and go straight to some points you're interested in. Let me know your skincare lessons down below. And also consider subscribing, leaving me a like, some suggestions in the comments, say hi, and stay safe and hang in there. And thank you for spending your time on me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye! And it's night. This will be fun to take care of with the lighting situation. Yay!